You're listening to Keys for Farewell. This is where one great question sparks a whole new conversation. I'm your host, Katlyn Green Johnson. I'm an apprentice funeral director and apprentice embalmer here at Anderson Funeral Home under the direction of our owner, Damon Hobbs. Today, we've got a very special guest that I am excited to talk with today. Kathryn Good is here. She is a local girl, and we've been friends for a long time. And she and I have conversations like this all the time. So we thought we would come on the podcast and talk about AI. So welcome, my friend. Thanks for entertaining me.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here. Fun to watch you do this. Fun even more to be a guest.
I love all different types of professions when they start talking about how their work touches loss, grief, people, relationships. Because I've said academically for a long time that funeral or death or loss or grief, it doesn't meet at an intersection at the end of your life. It runs parallel through all the things we go through, all our milestones. And for you and I, we made a lot about marketing and content. One of the hardest things to do is content on sensitive subjects like death, like loss, like the hard moments. So, as you know, on the podcast, I like to ask my friends one kooky question that really starts a conversation. So, for you, I want to know your take, of course, on AI. AI is blowing up. It's blowing up in the funeral industry as well. Want to get your take on it, but specifically, I want to know the pros and cons that you see about people and relationships.
Oh, specifically relationships. Going there, huh? So love this question. As you know, I've been working with AI since really summer of 2023. So almost 3 years now of really integrating AI into our business. And so I've definitely seen some in our clients. So I've definitely seen some pros and cons. So to speed things up, of course, to start to get an expert opinion, like analyze this contract or something. Give me your opinion. What might I be missing? If you want to learn something new, if you just don't know how to create a website or what the starting point is, it's nice just to get quick answers or a quick intro into something new, at least from a business standpoint and even personal. Like I'm planning all of our trips on using AI now, but we have to know where we are the experts and where to call on our fellow human beings as the expert, right? So even funeral planning, if I knew that, I was going to need to start to plan a funeral for a loved one or something of that nature, I could start with AI and start have it ask me questions about, what we want or what we should be thinking about, or the questions we should be asking the loved one. But at some point, we have to bring in the professional. At some point, we need to know, you know what, I'm not in this industry and I need to call on the expert who is a real human being. And so I think that is a challenge. I'm a big believer that we all have different strengths and weaknesses and they're God given and we need to be in community. And I am concerned that AI is going to be really easy for me to just go, I got it. I got my answer and I don't need to go see the doctor or I don't need to, that is a big concern. And that's not really one-on-one relationships, but it is one-on-one with each other and as a community. And are we going to take away from each other's strengths and weaknesses because we're just relying on an AI tool? And then what I would say about specific kind of relationships, as I like to say, if I have an idea, which I have ideas all the time. And so AI can be that brainstorming and thought partner, but and that can be a good thing because my husband doesn't want to hear me talk and go back and forth and pros and cons for 20 hours. Right. And so where AI is like, yes, Kathryn, let's talk about this now. And let's talk about this now. But it is AI, it is artificial. And so I do think there's an advantage that we can go back and forth and I can brainstorm and it be a thought partner. But at some point, I can't let it replace my conversations with real human beings. And I can see that happening, how easy it can happen, especially if you haven't trained your ChatGPT to disagree with you or to play devil's advocate or be a sparring partner, because out of the box, it's very pleasing, especially ChatGPT, right? So, if you start a conversation and it's constantly like, brilliant idea. Well, of course you want to continue to hear that, right? But that's not really helping you. But I think if we haven't trained our AIs and, if we need that confidence boost, it can be really easy to start to rely on it.
To train our AI. I know You can load AI with your brand voice, your theme, your colors. I don't know that you could load it with what's good for my family. And in some of these milestones, that's my only reservation. Let's do a little test here. Let's put in AI. I'm going to ask first, I'm going to ask it, what are the top 3 songs played at funerals? You want to guess? You have any ideas?
Christian or not Christian?
I didn't specify an AI.
I'm not real good with naming songs. I will remember you or something. What did it say? I'm dying to know.
I have to hit send first. It's working. My guess, I would say in this area, well, first you said it, Christian or not, religious or not, secular, or what area are you in? I can tell you that Amazing Grace is wildly popular here. So is Go Rest
How
High on
great
That
thou art.
Mountain. How Great Thou Art's a big one. Well, here we go. This is a great example of what you just recapped for us. It says Amazing Grace. I'll agree. Number 2, Ave Maria.
I wouldn't say here, but maybe. Well, you would know more than I do here.
Maybe once or twice in years. So I would disagree here in the heart of the South. Number 3, My Way, Frank Sinatra.
Really? I have never heard that at a funeral.
Maybe once in years. Maybe. Honorable mentions. Here are the runner ups. This is cool. Time to Say Goodbye. Nope. Wind Beneath My Wings. Some. I Can Only Imagine. That one's true. That one's true. And then it goes, Go Rest High on That Mountain. So
So it's
interesting.
great. I mean, ideally, you would have said, or someone looking needs to give more context, right? Like
Hmm.
this person was this denomination in church, or this person is from this area of town, or this, like, and that's really interesting. But yeah,
Really neat. This I can see this is just a silly example in us playing around like we do, but this doesn't give context to the person. This is an overall statistic. And like you said, if I was thinking about a huge amount of song choices and wanted to narrow it down, that might be a pretty good prompt. But if this is my loved one, robot doesn't know them. A robot doesn't know the memories. They don't know the feelings that these songs evoke. So I did tailor it a little bit and I said, what are the top 3 songs played at funerals in Tennessee? It says Amazing Grace, Go Rest High on That Mountain, I Can Only Imagine, followed by honorable mention. I love that it says that. Jealous of the Angels. I've never played that.
I've never heard of that.
Interesting, right? So that's kind of cool.
Hmm.
One of the things in funeral business that's getting really, really big is the use of AI in doing memorial media. And I can tell you one that I really love and one that I kind of don't. One, I love that now we can use AI to update or upgrade pictures.
Yeah.
A lot of obituaries and service details and death announcements are posted online instead of newspaper type anymore. And I love that we can do edits,
Very good
if
use.
you want a type of profile picture of one person, but you have a family photo, we can edit that. If you want to put the dog in the picture because that was such a, meaningful thing, we can do that. If we want a background like nature and scenery, and we can make it extremely personal depending on what we know about that person. The other thing in our software is that we have the option for AI to write the obituary. You can imagine how that goes. So if I were to write your obituary, Kathryn, what do you think it would sound like?
Well, interesting you asked that one. So one, it depends. Like, so when I first started this, I had AI pull a bio for me and it said I loved outdoors and it said I loved animals. Well, I'm allergic to animals and I am not a big hiker. And so it just totally made stuff up. Like, and now because there's a lot more like bios or whatever when I've been speaking, it's just better at finding local information now than it was 2 years ago or so. But it can pull real things, but it still may find a Kathryn good in another part of the country, and it's gonna just assume that it's me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you really had to be specific, please write a obituary. No, this would be just a starting point because ideally you would be taking thoughts from the family. Ideally, I would have, a family member who wants to write it, or give and I guess I'm confusing it with the eulogy, but, like give some thoughts and, that sort of thing. And if you want to start with a blanket format, I think you can give AI, like, here's our format. We start with, and you probably have a context of, this person has passed, this they're survived by, all the things that have to go into it. But then, yeah, I think there's some things that you would be able to pull naturally, and then there's other things that you would have to ask the loved ones for, right? And so
Exactly. And, it's
some of that
really
is just a
tailored
process.
based on what they want. Obituaries are so highly personable. My nerdy brain really loves this because you can have just a death notice. So and so died on this date in Nashville, Tennessee. Services forthcoming, or private services will be held. That's fine. Some
Yeah.
people, that works for what they need. Other people love a historical, all the accomplishments and what they're proud of and the values and maybe what they were a part of as far as civic organizations. I could write a good Google op-ed on you based on your business. Do you want your obituary to be all about marketing?
Yeah. No.
Maybe not. You almost said yes. Maybe not. Maybe not. Your bio is, your professional is, but is that your values?
Yeah. Very
Good
true.
Circle Marketing is a great, great brand, but is that you? Is that your company values versus your personal
Well, even
values?
if it is me, you're leaving out an entire part of my life, right? Like it's not my family and it's not my church and it's not my friends and it's not the ways I've served. And so, yes, it's a huge part. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of with the business is it is me. I mean, there's a lot of me in this brand. And so you wouldn't be too far off if you just used Good Circle Marketing. But again, you would be, I mean,
That's right.
the people that I've been in a relationship with wouldn't be included at all, really, except for clients, and my kids and husband are not my clients.
Exactly, exactly. So, it's that connection, but like you said, it can build a pretty good shell. Let me tell you a really funny story. So, I have had some testing with this in the business. The joke is don't write your own obituary, it's a bad omen, but in school, they make you, so I've done it 100 times. So, if I if I ask AI to write my obituary, I'm gonna get 1 or 2 avenues. I've gotten she fell ill and feigned and died a horrid death. I got, like, the Edgar Allan Poe version. I also have gotten the flowery, "She rose high on the wings of eagle's dove in mid-morning," and you get, like, poetry.
Do either of those represent you?
I kinda dig the historical, not gonna lie, but yeah, but we're nailing it. What if that's not what they want? And so I
Yeah,
guess the lesson learned here is to not assume. Not assume that AI can do everything, not assume that AI knows what's important to you, and to not assume that the easy button is always the better
yeah,
button,
yeah.
right?
Well, and I say start with a problem. And so, with every if someone doesn't wanna write it, right? If it's too hard, if it's bad relationships or something, then I think AI if the problem is we can't get this obituary written, then I think AI can be a really good tool because you could go to the family and ask a few questions and then you write it and it's done. But if it's not a problem, if the information is just forthcoming about this individual and like the family wants to participate, then it's not a problem. And we can use AI for other things. But if you know what I mean, like so I think it can have a place in almost anything if there is a problem. Because if there's a problem,
Mhm.
more than likely we can use AI to at least help us brainstorm or get it done or whatever else. It's just I think we're gonna run into trouble if we just assume AI can help us with everything instead of saying, okay, what's the problem I'm gonna try to solve? And can my brain do it? Is there an expert I should talk to? Can I use AI? That kind of thought process.
Absolutely, you nailed it. That's the exact value I think that's here that I wanted to touch on is that, especially in the funeral business, you have a person for that. Especially in a family owned business like this, the same person that answers the phone is the same person that comes to your house, is the same person that's sitting with you through this. And most times people are like, I just don't know where to start with an obituary. There's a Caitlin for that,
Yeah.
you know? And I really love that part because then you get to hear story, and people telling a story is such an essential part of the grieving process.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you need and you're not sure where to start,
Love
prompts
that.
are great. Prompts and proofreading. That's what I
Mhm.
use AI for, and I think that's really neat. What do you use it the most for in your business?
So ours is very much just like I said, I'm trying to take a problem. For example, I don't know if have you used Claude yet? So Claude has skills, and so it's like a custom GPT, but they're kind of built in. So I'm working on a search engine optimization for a website right now. And we use a backend tool called Yoast that is it's in WordPress. And typically what I would do is just like read the content on the page, the keyword that I want each page on the website to to be about. And then I would write the metadata and the title of the page. Well, this is not brain science, right? Like the page content is done. I'm just trying to get the back end technical SEO done. And so I was like, I've got to do SEO for the site. Surely I can build a tool using AI. And so I went to Claude and I said, I want you to help me build a Claude skill that gives me exactly what I need to put into my use. Basically I give it the web page and it gives me back in seconds what I should put into use for the metadata title and metadata. So I say that to say for us, it is definitely starting with a problem. And anything that is repetitive, like it's not using our brain a lot. And is there a tool that we can develop or use in order to make that kind of work quicker? Now, to your point, like my job when I'm working with a company, I do a lot of questions like, why is this, why is what you do important? How can only you do what you do? What is the heart and center? What do you want people to feel? What do you want people to like they're concerned before they start to work with you? And then how do they feel after? Right. Like, so all of these questions that get really to the heart and soul and why and core values of a business. And so then I have all of this about the overall business, about the products and services and that sort of thing. And we shape the content over all of that because that is their voice. But then once we get into like these technical details of like metadata, it we absolutely will use an AI tool for and once I have that heart, even I don't recommend AI images. I get what you're saying, like in turning the image or adding the dog or editing it
Yeah,
slightly, especially,
editing.
that sort of thing. But like there's all these things of, get 100 headshots in 3 minutes. And I think that's okay. If you have just haven't gotten a headshot done in 10 years and you can't get it done and you need a headshot like right now. But I think we have to be really careful about how we show up authentically. And when I'm hearing a lot now, like, well, that photo is clearly AI or that photo is clearly AI. And if you're okay with people saying that about your images, then go for it. But I think what we in an age of AI, all our authenticity is going to matter even more, and our personal brand is going to matter even more. So there's a line for me on, what we use AI for and what we don't. But I do think anything that can be automated, anything that's repetitive, anything that's data driven, like if you're looking at spreadsheets all day, like all of that is stuff that AI can really, really help with. But I'm looking at the things such as the SEO tool that we are doing this, I don't know, once a week or so. And so how can we develop a tool that just gives us what we need a lot?
That makes complete sense because 'cause you're separating out the why we do it versus the how we do it, you know? I like it. I like it. So let me ask, for our listeners that are funeral professionals, give me some advice on content. If you were running a website, social media, PR for this type of topic, what would you avoid and what would you
Oh.
speak to or what would you rather choose, I guess, for content?
So what I would avoid is any kind of content that you can get from ChatGPT, right? So the top 10 songs in even Tennessee, right? But they can't get remind me of your organization's name again.
Oh, for Anderson, if we were gonna do
Yeah.
an Anderson funeral home?
Yeah. So if they don't know the top 10 songs recommended by Anderson Funeral Home, right? Like
Right.
so anything that you can tell, the stories that are happening inside of your organization, the any kind of data that you can gather about your not your industry, but the people that are coming to you for help, or even your industry. If you were going to do like an industry survey, that you kind of own that data, not this assumed data that ChatGPT is going to put out. Stories, expertise, stats, any of that stuff that you can own that I can't go to ChatGPT and get. What I love to do, just speaking in general to the industry, is I love to sit down with a business owner and ask questions and interview them on video. So I do this for a couple reasons. So like we just did one yesterday. We it was a client. We interviewed them for about 2 hours. And what I love about this is I'm getting their voice, their heart, their answers, their stories, and I can't get any of that on AI. I can guess, but I can't truly know what they would say to the answers to these questions unless I ask. So then what we can do after anyone does this, like if we sit down and interviewed you for a couple hours, then we can take that and we can use Descript or Opus clips or, other things to cut these into shorts, to cut these into reels. We can also take that entire transcript and create blogs, create other pieces of content, but it's not starting with ChatGPT. It's starting with this stories and this information that can only come from the person being interviewed. So that's what I think it's so we would use AI to repurpose, like we would have this transcript and I would take the transcript of all of these stories and expertise, and then I would ask AI to turn this into social clips or to turn it into what are the best times, give me the timestamps, which is just the parts of the reel that, the timestamps of that's how a reel is broken up if you don't know. But like in a video, we want this section, this timestamp. We feel like this is going to be the best. And so then we go edit that or what have you. But there's all kinds of ways we can repurpose content using AI, but it starts with the heart and soul and real words of that person. Does that make sense?
100%. So it has to start with what's unique to the organization or what's unique to the funeral service. But I love the word repurpose. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
No, I mean, it saves time. But still, you have to have human, AI, human, right? So it's human on the front end because we're getting this interview that can only come from the person. We're using AI to repurpose and even maybe, help us exactly write the captions, but it's coming from the heart of this original piece of content. And then, of course, we're reviewing it. So then we might look for too many M dashes or, things that are just like, well, that's not really the way I write. The other thing I really like to do, Katlyn, is to have a voice file. So to take writing samples that are not AI at all. So even like if you have to go back a couple years and get, emails, proposals,
You want my college papers?
eulogies, what?
I'll send you my college papers.
There you go, college papers. This is how well, and ideally you're creating a brand for Anderson, right? Or a brand for this funeral home. These are the ways that this sounds like us, especially on social media. Like we all should have a way we sound. And so if we can go back and collect all of these writing samples, we actually can feed them to AI and say, help me identify my voice, my tone, my brand in order for me to give it to an AI agent and help it write like me. And so I mean, there's a longer prompt that you can give it or just say, I need more. But ideally, you're going to have like a good, solid page or two about your writing structure and your tone and words that you use and words you don't use. And that really can be a foundation for how we write, but we still have to double check it. It's that human, AI, human, right?
Women,
And
AI,
too many times right now, what we're seeing is go to ChatGPT and say, write a blog on most popular funeral songs. And then maybe somebody says, make it sound more like me, which to me means nothing if you haven't actually trained the AI to sound like you. Make
right.
it sound more like me. And then we just put it out. And then so we're just getting into, and it's going to get worse. I mean, that's the term called AI slop, and it's just going to get worse. But I think we have the choice to be authentic. We have the choice to start and end with a human, and how we use AI in the middle to automate, repurpose, that sort of thing is great. And but then I also would say, okay, if we're saving time, what are we doing with that extra time savings? What are we doing it to do more work? Or are we in community? Are we going to meet with a family that's grieving? What are the things with the time saved that we can do that only humans can do? And I think that is really where we as a society have to start to think, because in the extra time savings, we want to gain more humanness, if that makes sense, not
Yeah, the
just
things
go
that
and
really
do more
matter.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, the things that really matter, like you said, the stats, the metadata, the Excel spreadsheets, great, great. One of the things I had a conversation this morning, and I thought about you, is that in the funeral service, one of the things that's really hard is marketing. It's very hard. And then one of the things that is also hard is the bereavement aftercare. Because funeral service, when people are here, we have that human connection. We are having real conversation and it's very, very rapport building. But before and after, it's hard to get that connection, that relationship, that tone, and also the education. Because, I mean, let's face it, death is a very taboo subject. Americans are very death negative. A lot of people just don't know what they don't know. They've had a bad experience, perhaps, or they just don't know who to turn to or where to go. They don't know who they can believe. There's a lot of money involved, just like anything else. And so they're like, is it too expensive? Do I have to have that? What should I do? What are my options? Those things are really hard. And this is one of the things that I'm thinking as you're talking about portraying your tone, your mission, your value in content. So I feel like that's another way for people to feel that we care, to feel that we are here before and after.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I love
ultimately,
that. It's also, what I would challenge the industry is, what are the things that only you can do? So does that you need to pick up the phone, is that a go and take a visit, in order to before and after to humanize it a little bit more. If that is what truly is important, but it's harder to do on the front and back end, right? What are the things that you can take away in order to either allow that time, or I was even thinking, like, it's getting really easy to develop apps, for example, and apps that, like, you can do that are very customized, that look like you, that, have your colors, but I'm just thinking, like, there's in the planning part, there's probably a lot of back and forth emails, or I don't know how you're communicating, but I could see this being, yes, we want this, or no, or maybe you just sit down and have a very nice meeting. I don't know, Caitlin, but I could just, anytime we can either make it more human, right? Or we can simplify it to where, yes, if this is done, and it's just like an easy experience, if that makes sense. But that's part of, like, for example, part of when we sign a client, we've got this whole onboarding thing that's basically, we need Google Analytics, and we need access to the website, and we need those writing samples, and we need all of these things that can be frustrating. And they're not really dealing with us because they have to go into Google Analytics and get the connection. And they probably don't even know how to go into Google Analytics because marketing is not their job. Right. And so what we're building is this app that, it's almost like here's how you do it. There might be a video from me that walks them through it. And then they kind of check it off. It almost feels like a game that they've done something, right? Yay. You connected Google Analytics or
yeah,
whatever. But
micro learning. Exactly.
yeah, but it's a way to decrease on that email tension, and like, just I've already done this. And a lot of times Google won't send me the notice that they've done it. And so if there's a system where we can alleviate some of that tension, and that is using these AI programs, right? Like, we're kind of connecting APIs, and we're building out apps using AI. If we can look at it as, what can we build to take away some of that tension and confusion when we're dealing with our clients, and then we take that time and we get in front of them, right? How can we build that relationship? I know what the number one marketing channel is.
YouTube.
Well, yes, but really, like, referrals and networking, right? Like, traditional, hey, where should I go? What funeral home should I go to? Right? 80% still is all referrals and networking, right? And then that other 20%, YouTube and, social channels, and YouTube is really, really affecting how we're showing up in AI and that sort of thing. But my point is, if 80% of most businesses, their leads and their, new clients are driven from referrals and networking,
Mhm.
then what should we be doing with 80% of our time? Maybe not 80%, but a whole lot
Word
more
of
than what
mouth.
we're doing. We need to be in community, and we need to be networking, showing up, so that when someone says, hey, I need a funeral home, they're like, call Caitlin, right? That's what we need. That's how we're all going to survive, in my mind. It's gotten really easy to just avoid that community, and avoid the networking, because there's something over here that we should be doing. But if that something over here that we should be doing can be AI driven,
Yeah. Is it fruitful?
then we go and get in community.
I've
And
noticed.
we can focus on problems that only humans can solve,
Mhm.
right? Oh,
Well, that's huge. I've noticed a trend in the funeral business that a lot of providers are offering contactless cremation, and I do think that that is absolutely what some people want and some people need. There are services that will you sign it online, you fill everything out online, and you receive your loved one's cremated remains shipped to you.
Wow.
It is possible, and I can do that. We can do that. The funeral home offers that. However, I don't think that's the first thought. That's not our first option because we're seeing a lot of people after the fact come back and say, "It didn't feel real. It was cold. I didn't get any sense of follow through." We hear the word closure a lot. There was no closure. There was no processing. We needed a real person. We needed guidance. We
Yeah, that
needed and so we're seeing these families come back quite a bit that something was missing. Even people that have gone through at other parts of the state, other parts of the country, and they say, "We did this at one time, and it just didn't feel right. We still have these unresolved issues."
So I think that brings up a really good point. You have a lot of chatbots online, right? Like solving problems. And I think, in my experience, like with an Amazon chatbot, like there's plenty of times where I'm like, this package didn't come, or I sent this package back. Like I took it to UPS and the tracking, I threw away the receipt, but I took it back. And there's plenty of times where I feel like that chatbot just takes care of it, right?
Yeah,
There's no
fine.
tension there. And for the user, that feels good because the problem was solved quickly. But as soon as there's a tension point, as soon as there's I really need to talk to a human, then we get frustrated with the chatbot and we're like, push zero or do whatever on the keyboard. Like, just let me talk to a human. Let me talk to a human. Well, I don't know of many more things that there's as much tension in as death. Right? And so if we need that human to help us solve everyday like chatbot problems, we need humans to go through big things like this. And you're right. Maybe some people can do this, but I think that's a really good example of when we take out humans of where humans are supposed to be, it's not going to feel good most of the time to most people, right? Because there's that tension that we want to walk through it together. We want to know that our problem is solved and we're heard and seen. And when we don't have that, it it feels cold.
Yeah, there is something to be said about walking each other home or community and ritual. And, even as humans, that's kind of universal is the ritual surrounding death. No matter what culture, what race, what ethnicity, what age, it doesn't matter. There is some ritual to kind of resolving some of the grief tasks. I said I don't really like the word closure because I think it doesn't exist. I think it's a myth. Grief is not something you get over. Grief is not something that you sit down somewhere. Grief is not something that you grow out of. It's something that you have to pick up and carry and walk on with. And those contexts can be really, really hard, especially in today's age where we have friends and loved ones that may live hours and hours away. We may have a funeral, for instance, with a grandchild who is in active military overseas. And it's beautiful. Technology, we can live stream them in.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's fantastic. But I still would rather be there for somebody to text me, call me, email me, come see me. Let's have a cup of coffee. Tell me what I can do. Tell me what you need. Or
Yeah.
even this was a beauty. I'll tell you a short nugget story that just filled my heart. There was a parent who pre planned everything and specifically said, "I don't need all the bells and whistles. I don't want all the extra things. I want it simple and respectful, but I do want some family time that's private for my children to spend the time together." Well, come to find out, now that was years ago. Come to find out, the children live all over the country. And for them to come together, I'm standing there and I'm watching them in a line hold hands.
Mm.
And they had this moment of, we're in it together. And there was a bunch of children. It was awesome. They were all standing there holding hands, walking through this. And it dawned on me, they may not have known that that's what they needed.
Mm.
They may not have realized how helpful that would be. But
The
what a
parent did though, because most of the time the parents always know, right?
exactly. Exactly. Their parent knew, but it was beautiful and it did so much good for their emotional processing. It's
Yeah,
that
that's awesome.
bond, that human attachment. And so I guess all of that to say, if you live out of state far away and you cannot get here, sure, you can sign something on email. Sure, you can DocuSign. Sure, we can do technology, AI. We will do whatever it is that makes it smarter, not harder. But there's also that personal touch. You know, if I have a problem, I'm texting you. I don't know metadata. I don't know all of this stuff. You're way over my head. You're brilliant. I wanna be able to say, "Hey, Kathryn, I'm in over my head."
Yeah. And I want to say, I got you. Right.
Right? Exactly, and so it dawned on me that in this conversation, it's the same. It's the same. I
Very
could
true.
keep you forever. I think you are brilliant. You are one of the nicest people that I know, and you are
Thank
doing
you.
some amazing work. So I appreciate you taking the time to hop on with me and goof off a little bit, but I learned some good nuggets about AI. The last thing I want you to tell our listeners is what you told me in your last actually, you say it in a lot of your presentations about, "Is AI gonna take my job?" Say your good quote.
AI will not take my job, but someone who knows AI will. So AI will not take your job, but someone who knows AI will. And I would also just say, we have to go the extra little bit. Like even this podcast is as an example. We have to keep learning, and we have to keep learning from each other. AI is a way to do that,
Yeah.
but having conversations and hosting podcasts is another way to do it. And we have to keep learning. AI is a very, very good way to do it and a very important way to do it. But I applaud you for doing a podcast. Most people don't even want to get on video, and you're doing a whole podcast. So good job.
Thanks. I do what I can. I love the personal. I love these type of topics. Before we go, I want to just say thank you for our listeners. If you're looking for Kathryn, she's at Good Circle Marketing. And if you are on social media, you can find her because she's a great, great brand and a great person. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here today. Be sure to tune in next time to Keys to Farewell. Anderson Funeral Home is Gallatin's family-owned and operated funeral service. We're located here in Gallatin, just off the square, and we're humbled by the opportunity to serve your family.